Police of Reddit: what bribes do you get offered most often? And for what offenses? I got pulled over and handed the officer my ID. Didn't realize there was a gift card to an auto parts store stuck to the back of it. He just handed back it to me, said, "You can have this back," and we both laughed at what a weird bribe that would have been. Anyway, didn't get a ticket, got to keep my $30 gift card. Win-win. That reminds me when I was buying alcohol at a local distributor. I was asked to present my ID and there, for some reason, was $20 stuck to the back of it that kind of looked like a bribe. She brought it up and all I could say was, "Oh, that's not mine," as if she magically pulled $20 put of nowhere, which kind of made it seem like a bribe even more. I was over 21 but could pass as a high school student at the time. Eventually we laughed it off and I left. I haven't gone back there since. Officer, can I interest you some auto parts? I'm imagining him accepting it without mentioning it, sending you on your way without a ticket, and then finding at a cash register somewhere that there are only 75 cents remaining, having to return his spatula to aisle 6, and then seething with eternal rage because he thinks you scammed him. I worked as an EMT in my younger days and we came across this very drunk gentleman one day and put him in the back. In my state it's legal to take custody of patients who are not alert and oriented. The patient in question thought we were cops because our uniforms were similar and he thought he was getting arrested for drunk and disorderly, so he tried offering us the rest of his booze and $12 to let him go. We kept asserting that we were not arresting him and we were taking him to the hospital to sober up so he didn't walk into traffic like he was about to do. Possibly more expensive than a disorderly but less damaging. All unless they brought him to detox anyway. A similar thing happened to me one night when I had way too much LSD and my wife called an ambulance. I was lying on the lounge, enjoying being Jesus and watching time go backwards when they walked in and came over to assess me. I noticed their uniforms, assumed they were cops, so I just put my hands up so they could slap the cuffs on. They had a good laugh and told my wife to just keep an eye on me, and were about to leave when I jumped up and yelled a warning about 9/11 which was going to happen soon. This was 2011, and they sighed and said, "Fuck it, let's transport him, good times." Probably knew you were EMT and didn't want the bill. That's enough to make you wish you were being arrested instead. Had a guy who stole a car offer me a McDonald's Monopoly-free French fry if I would just let him go. Also, if I just called his father, Tony the Tiger, he would be able to clear everything up. I am going to skip "what was he on" and go straight to "how much of it was he on?" Yeah, Mr. Tiger, I have some not so GGRR news. Dad, I saw some of your frosting powder out and tried it and now I'm in trouble. I'm confused as to whether he was trying to say that 1, the car belonged to his dad, Tony the Tiger, so it wasn't stolen, or 2, that his dad was Tony the Tiger and could therefore offer an ever bigger bribe. Perhaps a large quantity of cereal. How can a 5-year-old reach the pedals in the car? Wait, my manager at work known as Tony the Tiger. Interesting because his son has just started a few months ago. 5 years on. One lady in a very joking manner said, "Can't I just buy you lunch or something?" I politely refused. That was the only time I've ever been propositioned in any way on the job. I must be hideous. Are you sure it wasn't a mansion? I would have been like, "Yeah, you could buy me lunch. Still gonna have to pay that ticket though." Should have said, "Ask me again when I'm off duty, but you're still getting a ticket." Dunno, one would think people would consider the ugly ones easier to bribe, especially with sexual favors. A joking manner sounds like a really pretentious comedy club where everyone wears white gloves. Nice try, internal affairs. This sounds like the sort of thing Deputy Chief Wunsch would put out there, just to see what Holt would say. Donuts. For any offense. And, does it usually work? Only if it's Krispy Kreme. You can keep it if you just let me go. It referring to various narcotics, baggie of heroin, little crack rock, jar of bud. News flash, I'm keeping it as evidence and you're going to county. And smoke it to find out its potency. At least you're not pocketing it, like some cops do in the Baltimore County Police Department. Damn, at least let him keep the jar of Bud D, it'll help with the heroin withdrawals once she decides to get clean from the actually dangerous stuff. Disregard all of the above if the person you're referring to was pregnant and/or was a minor. Can I pet your doggy? If you make that ticket disappear. The reverse of this once happened to me. I got pulled over for rolling a stop sign with my dog in the back seat. The officer was so enamored with him he let me off with a warning. Mom, I'm a traffic warden. There's no dog. A cop friend of mine and his partner pulled a guy over for DUI and the guy offered him $10 to forget the whole thing. He said, I've already called it in, and besides, I'd have to split that 10 with my partner. If you're going to try to bribe me, at least make it more than $5. He didn't charge him with attempted bribery, because it would be hard to prove that he wasn't joking. Sounds like a good dude. No bribes, but everyone likes to mention their brother's wife's uncle used to be a cop though. Also everyone thinks saying I'm just trying to get home unprompted is somehow going to convince me to let them go, when it's really just telling me I'm very intoxicated right now. So, what can we say or do to be let go? How would pulling out a Monopoly get-out-of-jail-free card go over? I used I'm just trying to get home when I got pulled over once. I was stone cold sober, just tired cause I'd pulled a double shift at work. I work in corrections at our local county jail in the booking intake section. A female doctor whom was arrested for DWI and would not be seeing a magistrate until the following morning, she missed the day's cut-off time and would have to wait another 24 hours, got on her knees and loudly yelled, "Whose dick do I have to suck to get out of jail? Not mine, that's for sure, lol." Not a cop but a friend of mine is. He told me that he was once lecturing a woman to the importance of not going past 50 km at that specific spot where he caught her at 75 km. Due to two schools nearby, he had no intention give her a ticket, he genuinely just wanted to warn her, maybe scare her a bit for then let her go. Out of panic she offers him a blowjob to let this slide. According to him, she was a completely average housewife, probably on her 40s, based solely on her looks and how she was dressed, probably the last woman on earth to even think on suggesting this. He asks, "Are you serious?" But in a rhetorical way, since he was totally astonished. But she didn't got the irony and reinforced the idea, saying that the ticket and consequent points on her license would mean she would be out of a driver's license for 6 months, so she would do WTV it takes. He let her go only with the warning, which was his idea anyway, and told her that bribing a police officer it's a crime. He admitted that the fact that she wasn't a super hot bimbo, stereotypical someone that would be willing to do something like that, and just a plain regular typical middle-aged woman really turned on my friend, and he even considered it for a second, but in the end of the day, an entire career, it's not worth it. Props to him. Internal monologue: this suburban plain Jane housewife doesn't know how to properly suck a dick, it's going to be 75% hand and only the tip is getting wet. Not worth the risk, hard pass. It does sound like she should have been out of traffic a little while though. Did a decade working mostly rural drug interdiction and traffic. Can honestly state I was never offered a bribe of any type for any offense. Ass-kickings and death threats, however, I had plenty of offers. Copyright: did anyone ever try to deliver? Not me, but my dad's best friend was a cop for like 40 years. Back in the early 2000s he pulled over a car with 4 chicks where the driver was drunk and they offered him group sex if he didn't give the driver a DWI. And that's how he met your mother. A friend of mine is a police officer and has been regularly catcalled. He is pretty attractive and I'll admit here that I have a crush on him. BCHES also really nice. I imagine that women and some men that he pulls over get a little thirsty or have a little fantasy after they see him. An older lady like 60s with a smoker's voice doted on him the whole time he had stopped her. Edit, for some reason my phone keeps autocorrecting police as Popoko. Edit number 2, asked him out for lunch, dinner sometime and he immediately asked me if I was asking him out like a date. And TLDRHES picking me up on his day off this week. Fuck it, if you like him ask him out. Worst he can say is no. Pecking order. Got pulled over for speeding. When he asked for my ID I gave him a get-out-of-jail-free card instead. That's awesome, great for the police who have a great sense of humor. I got popped for a DUI, and glad I did. I should not have driving and I still feel like shit about it 20+ years later. Was completely out of my head on a few different things including alcohol. Tried to bribe the cop with a 20. Like he is going to commit a serious crime and let my danger to myself and others ass go for beer money. To this day thankful for that officer who took me off the streets and didn't add attempted bribery to the charges. Don't drive under the influence, kids, the life you ruin might be someone else's. Handjobs for arson mostly. What does this mean? Great band name though. I guess if you got your hand going fast enough. Someone already mentioned the most common one for me, which would be, you can keep the drugs, cash. Most bizarre one would be from a sex offender who owned a taco shop and offered me free tacos for life if I looked the other way. Out of all of the bribes I've seen on here, this would be the most tempting to me if they weren't a sexual offender. Cash for speeding offenses. Everyone knows those soft plastic holders for your ownership and insurance. Well, people like to hand those over with cash stuck in them. I always make people take their documentation out of the plastic holder and hand it to me so this doesn't happen. Never have I, nor would I ever take it. It pisses me off when people do this. Do you really think I am going to abandon all my morals and job for $50? It is usually people that have come from outside of North America who do this. It might be acceptable there, but not here. Also for those that are about to ask why I don't charge them for trying to offering me a bribe, reasonable doubt is a bitch. Very common in South Africa. It's almost expected. I think in a lot of countries that's actually standard procedure whenever you get pulled over. It's essentially a shakedown. You'll get stopped for like no reason and need to play ball with the police so you don't have your day ruined. So it could likely be instinct for a lot of people, like a fear response. I keep a 100 cash in 20s inside that. Emergency money if I run out of gas or BFE somewhere. When I was 18, I wasn't entirely sure what piece of paper was what, so I often handed them the plastic booklet to the officer and explained that. It never occurred to me I had cash in when I did this, or that it'd be taken as a bribe. American born and raged. Also my money never disappeared. Don't some people just keep cash in those plastic holders? Not for bribes, but for emergencies, or as a makeshift wallet. I heard about people getting into trouble while traveling abroad. They exchanged money before traveling and stored the big value foreign currency bills in their passports. The Border Patrol and customs agents sometimes get hostile when they are handed a passport with money in it, because they think they are being bribed, and are not sure what for. Not if they hand cash. Will you abandon morals but let them know someone else on the force and suddenly they only get a warning? A couple times I've tried to hand people my debit card instead of my ID. Genuinely by accident. I've also handed people my ID instead of my debit card. I don't always pay attention to which card I grab, especially if I put them away in a different order than usual. Problem is in a lot of those countries it's not just acceptable, but it's actually required. Not that it's really any excuse, but I can't imagine the cultural difference when it comes to police. Not a cop, but my brother is a TSA agent who had this story to tell. He once had to screen Justin Bieber as the kid was going through LAX. The kid really wanted to bring his soda from In-N-Out through the checkpoint. Even though he was going on a private jet which had sodas already on the plane, he wanted to bring that specific soda with him. No fluids over 3.4 ounces. I'll sing you a song if you let me keep it. To this day, we're still not sure if he was trying to bribe a federal employee, or if he was just threatening to subject everyone in the terminal to his music. Honestly, there are WAAAY more threats than there are bribes. But the one I've had a few times is money in lieu of DUI stuff. Never had any bribes offered when I was a cop. Got plenty of offers as a correctional officer. Mostly it was commissary, ramen soups, honey buns, etc., and in return they'd ask for things like food from staff dining, getting moved to other housing sections or other cells, or for me to bring in cigarettes for them. I had one guy offer to wire me a few $1,000s if I would bring a message to his wife. I had 3 stages of dealing with bribes: nah, man, I'm good. If they pressed the matter, it became, no, I never take things from inmates. If they insisted, it was then, okay, I don't feel like writing a report tonight if I don't have to. So, we're both going to pretend you were just joking. Because if you try to bribe me one more time, I'm writing you up and throwing your ass in the hole, and you might even catch another case. So you might want to shut the fuck up and walk away. Never got past stage 3. I was once offered porn-level sex with one of the hottest women I have ever known. Arguably the hottest woman I have ever known. I knew who she was too, since a couple of friends of mine had slept with her and said she was phenomenal in bed. She was drunk. I walked back to the car and called for a female patrol to handle the remainder of the traffic stop, FSTs etc. I was still pulled off the road for a couple weeks for an investigation, but was commended for not giving in. A friend of mine is married to an officer who is pretty good looking. He pulled over a car with a fairly masculine drag queen in it, and was told, "You can frisk me if you want." He laughed and told her she had a taillight out. She repeated the offer again. Tempting. I don't think I can answer this question, wink wink. You are a monster.